What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Nathan of Resolve. It is great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for coming on the show today, man.
What's up, everyone? My honor.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here, man. This new album, Human, is absolutely kick ass. Um, did this almost kind of feel like a continuation of Between Me and the Machine? Was it almost feel like you were picking up where you left off after that in a way? Or is this meant to sort of be like a new beginning for Resolve?
No, we're not at that stage yet where we want a new beginning, kind of. No, it was. I mean, it feels like a continuation of Between Me and the Machine, but it was also something we kind of made on purpose. Like lyrically, there's some similarities, and I wouldn't say sonically because we tried every time to renew ourselves in terms of sound and how we write music, but we're still the same band. It's like a better version of us, but I wouldn't say we went to a whole new universe or anything. We're still trying to do. We feel like we still have our best to do in this scene, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's same band, just like 2.0.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Between Me and the Machine, actually, like I thought was a fantastic album that definitely left me wanting more. So this is a real epic follow up. Was there at all sort of like a vision going into the making of this album? Was there sort of like an idea that you had, or was this a very improvisational songwriting process?
The new one, you mean, or
Yeah,
the,
the new
the
one.
previous one?
The new one.
The new one was like, to give you like the best example I have is usually when we were writing stuff, we would say to ourselves, okay, how do we bring more metal in this? Because we tend to always write some rockish stuff and sometimes even some ballads. And the thing is now when we start with something really slow, really chill, and we feel like there's no place for breakdown or anything like this, we won't force it or anything. Like this song has to be more rock and ambient side. It will be like this, and we don't try too much to fit something inside or between two parts, which we did a lot the last time. If we don't hesitate that much to actually throw everything to the trash and just start again. But like we know we're starting to know when we're going in a wrong direction, like before spending hours on it and just waste it all.
Hmm.
So yeah, about that, I would say like when we write a song, if it's not enjoyable in the first 15 seconds, or if there's nothing coming out of it like in the first hour, it's probably not a good move, and we should move on to something else.
Really? So, are you ever worried that the song you'll stop though will maybe end up a B side one day and just be the biggest hit you guys ever had?
Well, you never know because we always like, not to say we recycle, but whether it was 5 years ago or in 10 years ago, a good riff is a good riff, like a good chorus, and you never know. Maybe someone's gonna go through his hard drive in 5 years and be like, "Oh my God, we had that riff! It was so great." So, I don't think anything goes away forever, actually, or maybe you just like rework it, like some old stuff we would have used on a demo. We'd be like, "Oh, maybe you should use this, but play it differently," which actually ended up being the case for the song Psycho on our previous album. It was an old demo that we worked on again and again and again. But in the end, it's the kind of song that made us realize, like, exactly what the most important is, like, if the song doesn't go as planned in an hour in of work, just leave it for later, which is something we haven't done in the past. It was a mistake. So yeah, I'm not really. I mean, in my opinion, the song we release are the best ones. So I don't think we're missing out on a potential one that could be a big hit.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Watch a B side record come out, and I was right in the end. Now I had the privilege of hearing this album very early, and again, fantastic. When you open up with Human and you end with Moonchild, it's a perfect adventure of a listen. But for people who haven't heard the album yet, do you feel like the singles that we heard so far, such as Death Awaits or Move to Trash or New Colors or the title track, that's a good representation of this whole album, or is there like a lot more to be discovered because people haven't heard Bloodlust or In Stone yet or Older Days? So
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I was wondering how much of this stuff can we talk about so I don't spoil anything to
yeah,
the listeners?
you could
Is it gonna
talk about whatever you want
is it gonna
as long as
go
you're
50 or
well, you could talk about whatever you want as long as if it's not plugging a
all
tour
right.
that's like scheduled for 2025 like some people have.
All right. So to answer your question, I would say like I would say the singles do represent the best what the album is. But there's no we haven't released any soft songs yet out of it, and I feel like it's getting more and more a big part of the result, but this isn't something we want to market the most right now, but we kind of feel it coming, like we're gonna go softer and softer at the time, and we also feel it's the best thing we do. We love metal music and writing heavy stuff, but we're getting much more comfortable with writing emotional ones like New Colors. I would say our last single is the perfect combination of everything this album has. This and Human, I would say, are the most resembling to the whole vibe, even though there's like a good 50 metal and, as people used to say in the past, post-rock influence. A
Yeah.
lot of people tell us we got some post-rock influence, which I don't even know exactly how to define post-rock, but it's always the same.
Well,
We never actually a genre, a specific genre or anything, and it's actually like a big thing in Resolve. And the fact that people still don't really know what to call us is both a win and not a win, because we've always wanted to be eclectic. So that's why it's really hard to sum up an album with, I would say, like only singles. If it was up to us, we would release everything with a video, and not a single song deserves to be shadowed by another one. But the thing is, you don't have that much time, that much money for the videos, and most of it time, mostly. But I
well,
would say New Colors.
you led me perfectly into the next couple of questions I was actually going to ask you. First, you opened up the door. You mentioned that word, post, because that word I still to this day don't know what that means. Because I've heard black metal bands be called post black metal, post hardcore, post rock. What does that word post exactly mean? Because when you look at post black metal, they're mainly like talking about like the shoegaze black metal with bands like Death Heaven or Mule. You take post hardcore, normally they're referring to bands like Glassjaw or Poison the Well. So I just mentioned two completely separate styles from different eras and different genres altogether. So what would that term post exactly mean?
I might be wrong, but at the moment, I feel like post is used to describe, like you would say, like a hardcore band, which is post-hardcore, would be like hardcore, but 5 years after everyone is done with it and trying to like shake up a bit the formula. It's what I understand when people use post, because like I don't really know if black metal and post black metal are actually what I think it is, but like to be clear, like Opeth would be black metal, I guess, for example, basic black metal, I don't know, and like a more post black metal would be the one only super atmospheric. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, people use the word post for us to say, hey, it's metal but a bit softer,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I've always thought that post was just almost kind of like a hybrid metal, where like it takes like post black metal. Like when people were listening to Mayhem, they couldn't have envisioned, that sound being incorporated with something as mesmerizing, and therefore they call it post. With like hardcore, people who were listening to Sick of It All probably weren't expecting a band like Glassjaw to alter the structure the way that they were. And I think with post rock, when
Like,
people were listening to Guns N' Roses, and then you see how experimental rock has gotten over the years, it's changed quite a lot. So, but again, I think people would have, if that word existed, people probably would have been calling Guns N' Roses post rock for people who grew up with the Rolling Stones.
yeah, exactly. Or maybe like Nirvana is post, would be like post punk from The Clash or anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything is post actually. Like, and post means after. So in a way, post is always like after the big wave comes something different, and then something different from this thing that was different at the first place.
Yeah. I think that was a good.
But yeah, like naming music styles isn't my best.
Yeah.
If it's heavy, it's heavy. If it's soft, jazzy, it's just jazzy. If it's
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like that.
you answered it better than a lot of people. I'll never forget doing a written interview with like one of those anonymous black metal bands, and I asked what does post mean, and they replied in that I don't fucking know what that word means. Fuck that shit. So I appreciate
Can
this
we move
answer a little
on?
bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Resolve's music, I do consider to be, as you said, like very experimental. Because Bloodlust sounds nothing like Comfortably Numb, and that sounds nothing like Ignite, and Moonchild is very different. Is it fair to say that maybe like trying new things is an experimentation is really essential in the songwriting process for Resolve? Does it sound like you're trying to stick with a specific formula?
I think like the time we move forward the most is when we try to implement something a bit crazy, even if we end up taking it off after it. But we need like a challenge every time we're writing music. Oh, like we've always wanted to have trumpets and horns at some point, or even like some choir sound. You can hear it actually in Stones, the middle one. So yeah, we kind of need those kind of challenge to then work around it. We don't really like write. We almost never start writing music with a guitar riff. Most of the time, it's either a drum pattern or some keyboards playing something really ambient and a single melody. So I would say every time we start writing something, it's experimental, and sometimes it ends up not being. And most of the time we force ourselves to not go too much into the experimental side, because I feel this is something you enjoy more playing than listening. And when you're listening to something, it's in our area of music listeners, it's important to keep a structure. Even though you want to take them somewhere on a journey, you need to still like give some, make some patterns recognizable. Don't go too far, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've always had progressive vibe. We really like, we all love the music we do. We all love playing our instruments, so we always have like a 10% of, I would say, a progressive metal in our writing process.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've done maybe over 1900 interviews at this point, and you may be the first band ever that doesn't start off with a riff. And it only took
Yeah.
this many interviews, but I finally achieved it. This will be an interview I'll never forget, only because of that. So, thank
You know,
you.
we like the way you see in the movies of guy just going on a keyboard and starting like doing chords and singing just the chorus. And this is actually, I feel, the best way to start something now more and more, because like the simpler, the more it is simple yet effective, the better people will enjoy it. And that's why sometimes you just need to start with something really basic, and you not even like so yeah, a guitar riff wouldn't do that. Just a melody, just a vibe and an idea melody, something like that.
Yep. And as a drummer, and you kind of just answered this, but have you ever had a whole? I mean, and again, you just answered it, but like, do you prefer to have music already present before you start laying down your drum patterns, or do you sometimes have a whole pattern written that the band could write over?
It happened very few times that the first thing we had was actually a drum pattern, but most of the time, no, it's mainly music. I don't really have any like a wish list I want to cross or anything. I don't. It's just to serve the music. Even though I wish I could put this and this, like this feel or this kind of pattern, I try to fit it in. If it doesn't work, I will try on some other songs. But apart from that, no, it's always the music guiding everything, and the rest comes after.
Um, a lot of people, I had a discussion about this with Justin Foley from Killswitch Engage, and we had this discussion because a lot of people assume because drums aren't a very melodic driven instrument that it tends to lack emotion in a way, and that it's mainly just a very technical driven instrument. It's a most important part of the
Yeah.
band, but it's also the most technical. But I listen to certain drum patterns. I watch what people channel into it. I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of emotional energy that's channeled into the drums, right?
Well, I don't. the fact that I've always like hit hard and stuff like that, I've always been really expressive behind the kit. Maybe like that's what you meant.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've always tried, like, you know, like not just a simple pattern like using just the crash and the kick, always some stuff in the middle. And I try to, I don't know if it's gonna make sense, but you would have drummers that play, and if you were to draw what they play, it would sound like this, like straight lines. And I try to actually like go back and forth with the dynamics, so to always have this bouncy effect. So yeah, sometimes it's more about the techniques, which we tend to use less and less. But this album is way more emotional on the drums than the previous one. The previous one was like not enough concessions, sacrifices, I would say. Not enough maturity behind the kid. This one is a bit more emotional, just sometimes just hit it, you know. Straight.
It's ironic because like there's so much thought that has to go behind drum patterns and all that, but it seems like right when you're in the process of playing it, whether live or in the studio, you can't really think too much while you're doing it because you like
No. Exactly. When you're recording, you want to anticipate everything, and you constantly have your head 2 or 3 seconds ahead of your brain. And so that's when you actually mess up with something. You've got to, you don't even have to think. You got to feel it more than thinking. When you start to overthinking stuff, like, okay, my hands should not be too loud on this one, and when I pass on the tom, it should be go easy. And you actually know how it's supposed to sound. So if you just listen to how you play, it's gonna come off naturally. But the thing is, you're doing that feel in like 3 bars. So right before that feel, you're gonna mess up the groove. You're gonna maybe like go faster, and that's the kind of thing that can really takes a long time in the recording process. Most of the time, the first takes are the best ones, and you just try to mimic that.
Yeah. Well,
And it's pretty frustrating sometimes.
yeah, I mean, for a song, especially in the rhythm section, seconds can spell the difference between life and death of a song live. So there's definitely a lot of pressure. No pressure, actually. No pressure. Um, and I have a few more questions for you. But being that Resolve does consist of very fast songs, but also ballads, like you said, are very slow songs, do you feel like it's channeling a different energy altogether? I heard that when you are playing a slower song, you're a lot more naked because if you slightly botch something, it's very easy to notice. Where if you're playing a fast one, it's skipping along so quick, so you just really need to keep up. So,
do you mean live especially, or
yeah?
Well, live, I would say the faster songs are easier, but the sorry, can you start the beginning of your question again?
Yeah, I mean, just playing a slower song or a faster song, which is more difficult, or is it a different energy altogether?
Yeah, I would say we're more used to playing fast and heavy songs than the slower ones. Actually, there's an in between for everyone where mid-slow songs in the middle of 6 heavy, like right after 6 heavy and fast tracks, playing a slow song or mid-slow song live is sometimes really hard. You've got to, I would say, like really focus to, because the level of adrenaline you had from those previous songs doesn't really go down as fast as you would expect. And most of the time, slower songs tend to be really, really slow live, and you just want to go faster. And I would say it's actually kind of it's a good thing having those kind of songs in the set, because it allows us to take a kind of breath of fresh air, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like slower songs have a bigger impact on people live. Like it almost as if like almost as if our most heaviest tracks were just, you know, heavy tracks, and people are used to it. And I feel like there's a better connection with people whenever Anthony goes on stage and grab like the acoustic guitar, and most of the time something happens and that actually spots, like put on a map the difference between us and another band you would have seen 2 hours ago. And so I guess while it's sometimes sorry, while it's sometimes harder to do soft songs live, it actually served the band well because it's what people talk about after the show most
Yeah.
of the time.
And just because a song is slow doesn't mean it lacks energy. Like I mean, when
No.
I was interviewing the band All That Remains, and they have a hit ballad, What If I Was Nothing. They say that feels like a high energy song more so than like their brutal death songs, because everybody puts up lighters or flashlights and people get really into it and it's so focused. So high energy and speed aren't necessarily going hand in hand together.
I feel like people go to live concerts to for the connection with the audience, and when you're doing like very fast double kicks and constant riffs, there's not really that moment when the musician can share with the audience, because first of all it's really technical, so you're very busy and you're not as connected to you're not actually looking everybody in the eye. But yeah, softer songs and slower songs usually are the one when you can win new fans.
Yep. And even if people hate it, it's always something that they talk about. I think, people still talk about Metallica's ballads to this day. So,
Exactly.
yep.
Nothing Else Matters is like top two on Spotify, and it's the one that goes on the mainstream radio in France. And it's the only metal band you would ever hear in
Yeah.
France on the mainstream radio.
So far, so far. Maybe Resolve will be the next one. So, before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else with the release of Human that you would like to promote with it coming out on September 15th? Any shows or tours coming up, or what else we could be expecting from Resolve in the future?
We're not touring in the USA yet, but we want to. However, we got shows planned in France all October long. Actually, it's taking place every weekends of October, and we've got a Euro tour with a band called Rise of the North Star, which is a French band also, uh, kind of big one actually in France. So most of the shows are taking place in Germany and Switzerland and Belgium. And for now, I think that's it. But yeah, we definitely want to come to the USA at some point. Maybe not 24, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, for 2025.
Never know. Never say never. And I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody, we're...
Maybe for the third album, actually. We never know.
Never know. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Resolve Human out September 15th. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.